Don't forget, ko-fi.com/stopwritingalone is a real simple way to show your support for what's going on here week after week. Hi everyone, this is Nicole Rivera and you're listening to the Stop Writing Alone podcast for writers who are looking for their writing community. I know you want to find readers for your work, but I think your first step is to connect with other writers. That's what we're going to do here in the Stop Writing Alone podcast. We'll do writing prompts and other writing group activities, discover online writing communities, learn how to find local writing groups, or how to make your own. Join us as we explore, learn, and write. This week's episode of Stop Writing Alone is sponsored by SamKimberlyDesigns.com. Sam Kimberly is a polymer clay artist. She makes clay art, ornaments, jewelry, and gifts. If you're listening to the name Sam Kimberly and you're thinking, I feel like I heard that before, you're absolutely right. If you've been listening to Stop Writing Alone for a while, Sam's been on our podcast a couple of times. She's a poet, but she's also been doing this clay art for an incredibly long time. She's got jewelry, like she said, and this framed art that she's been making all with clay. It's fascinating. I'm sitting here with one of her Christmas ornaments in my hand that is it's just unbelievable. Sam told me the different designs that she was going to be making this year for Christmas, and I asked, which of these would you like? And she said cardinal. I was like, I love cardinals. I would love a cardinal. So I'm sitting here with a clay cardinal in my hand that is, I don't know how she does what she does. I know that she started with red clay, and then somehow I'm sitting here with a clay bird that has this nuanced color. The detail of the feathers is unbelievable. The wings that she has on here, the eye, the beak, the bright colors, everything just on point. And then on the back, she stamped a message that says, "Love is always with you." And I didn't tell Sam this, but part of the reason that I kind of like jumped on the cardinal is the cardinals always remind me of my mom for some reason. And many of you know my mom has passed away. So to see this message on the back of this cardinal, "Love is always with you," I was like, whoa, she totally nailed it and got it. So here's the deal. Sam's got these ornaments that she's making for Christmas. If you go to our website, SamKimberlyDesigns.com, please remember Sam's last name, Kimberly. She spells it with an E at the end, not a Y. She said she's going to have some awesome deals for Black Friday, so you're going to want to keep your eye out for that. But also, if you go to her website and there's any design that's no longer available, she is custom making them now. So you can reach out to her via email and say, like, this is, I really love, the pickup truck that you made, or that toilet paper Christmas tree with 2020 on it is hilarious. Please make me one of those. So in the show notes, I will have a link to Sam's website, again, SamKimberlyDesigns.com, but I'll also have her email there just in case you want to reach out to her about the designs that she's making. But don't forget, the website has ornaments, art, jewelry, all the things. Please support Sam Kimberly. She's a great friend of the show, and we're so grateful that she is sponsoring this week's episode. You are going to love the art that you get from Sam. So go check out that website. And thanks again, Sam. And here we go to the episode sponsored by SamKimberlyDesigns.com. Hi, this is Nicole Rivera, and you're listening to the Stop Writing Alone podcast. If you're one of the many writers that's not participating in NaNoWriMo, I'd like to apologize with my current obsession with talking about this challenge, but I am in week 3 of National Novel Writing Month, and every single week seems to present a new sort of topic or challenge that is on my mind, that when I sit down and say, well, what am I going to talk about this week? It's just right there in front of me. And this week, in week 3 of NaNoWriMo, there is this like pattern that happens year after year. It's 4 weeks of writing, right? 4 weeks of writing with abandon and trying to get 50,000 words in 30 days. You're showing up to your story. You at minimum, if you want to like keep up with all of the data, you want to write at least 1,667 words per day. So this is a lot of writing, every single day, on top of, whatever else that you're trying to accomplish. But there's an amazing community around it. There's so many other people that are involved that in the first week, there's this like frenzy of excitement that everybody is creating and together and like high-fiving virtually. We're like all doing this. This is great. And week 2, we start to hit our first challenges, but there's this wonderful feeling of like, you're not in it alone. This other person is also feeling those same challenges. This is fantastic. It's like for once, all of the stuff that you're struggling with in your writing, you're seeing in a community. And me, queen of Stop Writing Alone, this is like my dream world, to sit in the middle of all of this, writing together, everybody sort of in it together. I love it. And this is what first really inspired me to look at the joy of writing together. Now, what ends up happening between week 2 and week 3 is that a lot of people lose steam. That those second week challenges take out a huge portion of the community. And by week 3, you look around and there's still, countless writers. There's so many people that are involved in NaNoWriMo now. It's not like crickets, but it's a different sort of energy. And I tend to think of it as like, oh, now we're serious. Now this is very serious. Everyone that's still left here is of the mind that I will finish. I'm a serious writer. And look, I'm not saying that none of us are serious writers or that I'm not a serious writer, but I'm always trying to find the joy and find the fun in all of the things that I do in life. There's so much struggle and suffering in our world that when possible, I am like eagle eye looking for silver linings. So when the tone shifts in a way like that, in like a global sense, in an entire community, I'm like, whoa, we got to make sure that we still remember why we're here. And I think that is the great challenge of week 3. And week 3 is representative of this part in our writing that we run into whenever we take on any kind of writing project, but particularly these larger writing projects where you start off with that excitement, that energy, the creativity is flowing, and you reach a struggle point that it's suddenly like, what happened to the fun here? What do I do now when I've lost that fire inside, or excitement, or just the joy? So that's what I want to talk about this week. There are a number of reasons why I think this happens to us in our writing. And like I said, whether it's a timing thing of third week of Nano or just where you're at in your project. And I think when we can identify what is sucking that joy from our process, we can then work with that identification to find the cure. It's kind of like, I've had personal experience with this where you're very, very sick and you have no idea why. There's nothing you can do about it. But the second you get that diagnosis, then you can find a treatment. So if we're missing the joy in our writing, if it is something, that it's just feeling like, I don't want to say it's feeling like work because it's always work, right? And I find joy in doing work, but that, when it feels like drudgery, that's what I want to say. When you really feel like you're in the slog and you're barely moving forward and it's just like, oh God, I gotta write. That just reminds me of an old Ellen DeGeneres joke where she talks about like how when we first learned to walk, everybody's applauding and celebrating. Oh, look, you're walking. And then it's like years later, we're grown adults and we have like, we want to change the channel on TV and the remote controls across the room. And it's like, oh, I gotta walk. All right. Anyway, total aside. Sorry about that. So back to what could it be that is causing you to feel suddenly like this is drudgery? And one of the first things that I think of is that you are You're writing with the future in mind instead of the present. When all of a sudden you get to a point in your story where the arc is becoming a bit clear. You're seeing what's happened so far, and you know maybe where you want to go, but you're stuck in what many people call the muddy middle. And you're like, I don't know what to do. And you start to hear all the voices of all of the people that this story might be going to. Whether it's like, what am I going to write so that an agent will like this? What am I going to write that readers will like this? A lot of the questions that come up in week 3 is like, who the hell's ever going to read this? Maybe I shouldn't have done what I did back there. Should I add this other thing in? Should I twist it up? Is this story even like worth reading? Is this terrible? I think once we start asking all the questions about like what other people are going to think about the story, that's one of the places where we start to lose the joy, because the only person that matters when you're writing a first draft is the only person that's reading that first draft, and that's you. So when you start to lose the joy, you've got to ask yourself, well, what am I writing this for? Why do I want to be here? What's going to, make me want to keep moving forward? Even if it's totally bananas and off, on some tangent in your story, you just show up, you write it, and you enjoy the ride. Because what you are doing is you are trying to get from point A to point B, from beginning to and through the middle to the end of your story. And you've got to want to be on that ride. So you just do it in whatever crazy way you do it. I mean, I was just talking to the happy campers, and for some reason, probably because Thanksgiving is next week, I had planes, trains, and automobiles on my mind. And I said, basically writing our first draft in NaNoWriMo is like that movie. You have Steve Martin's character who's at work in Chicago, and he needs to get home to his family on the East Coast. And he takes the most ridiculous route home, just because of weather and everything. He takes a plane, he takes trains, he takes a bus, he takes a car that blows up into flames, and then I think he ends off with a subway before he's walking down the block to his house. Maybe there's a cab in there, I don't remember. I need to watch this movie again. This is one of my favorite movies. But the thing is that in that movie he makes it from work all the way home. Now he is never going to take that same path again, because that was a hot mess. But he now has a beginning, middle, and end, a trip, a kind of blurred line that we can see of how to get from his work to his home. And that is your first draft. Your first draft is like that trip in planes, trains, and automobiles. And it's a hot mess, but it got you there. It got you to the end. And then your job later, which is way later from now, is to revise, to go back and say, okay, so if I wanted to take that trip again, what would I actually do? What was the most direct route to get from a workplace in Chicago to home? I think it's in Connecticut. I could have this all wrong. But right now, while you're writing, you're on the trip. And if you want to take a side route and get off the plane and take a train and then jump on a bus and sing the Flintstones song with everybody, this is your ride. Enjoy it. Go crazy, because everything that happened in that movie is hilarious and awesome. And I really would never want it any other way. And I'd never want to take that trip twice, but the memories and everything in the story that's in it is amazing. And that's what can be happening in your first draft if you just let it unroll the way it's happening to you. Like, don't resist all of the side turns and things that are happening in your story, if that's what's bringing you the joy and bringing you to the page. Now, there is another very real situation that could be happening with your story that is sucking the joy, and that could be if you've completely forgotten your why or your protagonist's why. Like, why did you come to this story in the first place? Why was this the story idea that intrigued you to come to November with and say, I want to write this. Or again, if you're listening to this outside of November and it's not a NaNoWriMo project, but it's just your writing project, what is the thing that made you think when you had the first spark of this idea, I want to write this story? This is the thing I want to explore. This is the character I want to explore. This is the world I want to explore. When you get to a point where it's feeling like drudgery, you've got to get really, really clear again on what your why was in the first place when you first started writing this novel and when you first started planning it. And also, more specifically, looking at your protagonist and what is their why. Why are they showing up in this story? What is the thing that they're going to learn throughout this story? And take a look at where you are in your story, and have you traveled too far away from that? So now it sounds like I've totally contradicted myself, because in the first place I'm saying take all the side routes you want, and now I'm saying have you gone too far off course? Because here's the thing, both of those things could be serving you or disserving you, and it's going to depend on where you're at. This is why no one can come to you and say this is the cure for your writer's block, and everybody's like, oh, I'll never have writer's block again, because it is different for every single person. You've got to be real about where you're at in your journey and your writing right now, and ask yourself, am I blocked because I'm not allowing myself to explore in this world? Or am I blocked because I went so far off the beaten path that I don't even know what the heck I was doing out here? You know, Steve Martin's crazy trip on planes, trains, and automobiles was really bizarre. And he went all over the place, and but he was always moving in the direction of his home, right? So you're going to do like a little snaky route to your finish line of your first draft, but you still want to always be sort of winding around where you would normally drive. So, and that normal drive, that straight drive from point A to B, is the why. The what am I really talking about? I talk about the big about all the time. And that's really what it is. What is your protagonist big about? But also, what is your big about? Why are you writing this story? And remind yourself of that. The last thing that I want to talk about when we're losing our joy in our writing process is whether or not you have lost your community energy. And that's really specific to NaNoWriMo, but it could also be specific to your writing project. It could apply to that as well. So in NaNoWriMo, like I said at the top of this episode, you start off with this fever pitch of like every writer you know has come out of the woodwork and has decided to join in this madness. And then by the time you get to week 3, it's like you call up some of your friends and they're like, nah, I'm out. I can't do it. And it's like, oh man, that really stinks. Like, am I crazy for continuing to do this? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be doing it. Why am I still here and they're not? All those questions come up. And then, like I said, there's also that tone shift of like the people you do call up. They're like, yeah, I'm not playing around. I'm doing this. I always do this. They're very, very serious. And you're like, okay, that's great too. I'm really excited for you, but I'm sort of enjoying the ride. And so where do you find the fun again, right? Where do you find the joy and fun? And I say this is a really good time to start something new. And I know that sounds absolutely crazy because you already got so much on your plate, but you re-energize by either tapping into a new community or a new tool. And the one that I've sort of jumped on here in week 3 is one that I did mention probably back in October when we were talking about some of the tools that might help you for the month of NaNoWriMo, and that is the website For the Words. And when I say 4, I'm talking about the number, the digit 4, and then thewords.com. And the great thing about jumping in with For the Words right now is that they always give new members a 30-day free trial, but for anybody that is participating in NaNoWriMo, there's a promo code so that you get like an extra 15 days on that, so that you get 45 days free. And For the Words, like I said, I think I've explained it before, is a game, an online game, where you're, there's this whole world and there's creatures, and you're trying to accomplish various quests and get across the map and defeat different monsters as you're going through. And the way that you do all of these things is you write. There is a space inside For the Words that's very similar to, let's say, like Google Docs. You just open it up and you start writing, and there's a formatting bar, and you can defeat various creatures with any number of challenges. There are endurance creatures, which will have timestamps on them, like you will defeat this creature if you write for 5 minutes straight or 20 minutes straight or what have you. You pick the creature and that is your time. Or you defeat this creature if you write 250 words, or there's a NaNoWriMo creature that has 1,667 words in 24 hours. There are quests that you can sign up for that you say, I will get a certain badge if I maintain a streak of writing for 4 days in a row, or maintain a streak of writing 10 days in a row, or so on and so forth. There's all different types of quests. So this brings in a fun sort of element, a positive reinforcement. I've always been a big fan of positive reinforcement and gamification, and this is like the marriage of both. And then add on top of that, the other love and joy of my life is writing community, and that is all over For the Words. Not only can you join up with other writing friends and say, be my buddy, and sort of follow each other's stats as you're going through all of your challenges, there is a hugely extensive forum on the site that talks. There are chats about the game, but there are also chats about writing. So that's amazing. And then there is a section called Read, which is for me reminiscent to Wattpad, where, people, this is community members of For the Words, are sharing what they've written in the community. And you can just sit there and read, and they have all the different genres. It's all broken down. You could read YA stuff. You could read romance. You could read poetry. I mean, the list is extensive. There was nonfiction. You get the idea. But for me, right now, this is like a new infusion of excitement and fun, because not only am I showing up to my novel at this point where I'm like, ugh, what happens next? I got to really get through this. But now I have that fever pitch of I have to get a lot of words, just like I had in the beginning of November. And it's kind of fun. I'm really, really happy that I didn't start this on November 1st, because on November 1st, I already had that excitement. I already had that sense of fun and community all around me. And so now when it's starting to feel like, oh, I'm still doing this, Thanksgiving is next week, this is going to be rough, my story is a little confusing right now. Now I'm like, oh, I'm going to go destroy this monster and look at my cute avatar. And I'm typing like crazy. And like I said, it is an infusion of fun and joy at a time when there's that little dip in the month. So those are just 3 things that I was thinking about in terms of when you hit this slog, either in your writing project or in your NaNoWriMo month. These are 3 things that you can identify and do to bring the joy back, because as I said before, there's so much in our lives that is difficult and challenging, and this is a passion, right? And I'm not saying that it's not also our work, and we're not also looking to make a profession from our words, and some of you may not be. Some people may be complete hobbyists out there that are writing literally just for fun. But I mean, in my entire life, it's even when I was teaching, it was always like, make sure that you are enjoying the ride. This life is way too short to be imposing these these sort of tortures on ourselves. If you're not enjoying the ride of your writing, then please stop. Please stop. Unless, of course, you're not enjoying for this little fixable reason, then treat it and move on and get back to enjoying it all. And please, live this life fully in a way that you can show up and say, I love what I am doing. Because I am happy as hell to say that I love what I'm doing. And I thank you for listening and making it possible for me to do what I love every single week. I'll talk to you again next Thursday. Happy writing. Enjoy it. I will see you then. One final thank you to Sam Kimberly Designs for sponsoring this week's episode. Don't forget to head over to samkimberlydesigns.com, and that's Kimberly with an E at the end. But if you need the link, just head to the show notes of this episode, and it'll take you right there. Thanks, Sam. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the Stop Writing Alone podcast wherever you're listening to this episode today. Then connect with us on Facebook at Stop Writing Alone Facebook page, or in the Stop Writing Alone with Nicole Rivera Facebook group. Check Instagram or Twitter, where I'm at NV_Rivera, to find links to our email newsletter. Recording, hosting, editing, producing. It's so much work. Disaster has struck. I finished my coffee. Tell me coffee is coming. ko-fi.com/stop writing alone.